remember Google Maps when you had to Google the address and then it gave you the directions and then you could like
MapQuest.
Okay. MapQuest. Thank you. Oh, it's not Google Maps.
No,
it's MapQuest. Very special guest here today with me, Adam Sheets from the Remax Realty team. And we've done a lot of business together throughout the years. I think we were just calculating it before we went on air. What, 6 years now?
6 years, 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's got to be close. It's got to be close to like 100 transactions. It's got to be close.
I'm curious. I'm probably going to have to go and look up those numbers later today, but it's been some very interesting ones nonetheless.
It's definitely, yeah. A lot of stories in there in whatever number it is, but I still think it's close to 100. And of those 100, it's got to be like 20% were just nightmares that we got to the closing table and the people ended up being happy. So
I think that there's only one transaction that we did not fulfill, but then we canceled it and turned around and ended up closing him on another home anyway. Mm-hmm. So our pull-through ratio on these are pretty fantastic, actually.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And some of the craziest stories.
Thrive under pressure and
no pressure.
Definitely good with adversity because I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but I know there's just I know who you're talking about. I don't know if I can say names. We'll call him Dan.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of the only people I've ever had lose their escrow deposit, but we made him whole and got him into a better place, which he still lives in to this day. And he's gained like $250,000 in equity in the few years he's lived there. So
yeah, that happened real quick for him too.
Yeah.
It was 2019, I think, that we closed him.
It might've been 2018.
I think our most recent transaction was one for the win too, because we had no seller concessions. We're in a market right now where we have no seller concessions, and our good old friend here, Adam Sheets, is still a master at that. And we ended up getting a credit, or did we get a new roof?
Justin?
No. Oh, did we get seller's concessions on that one? I wasn't quite sure.
I think we got something. Who was the other one?
The new roof. The new roof where the seller insisted that it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was the HOA's responsibility. And then we ended up getting him a new roof.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, that was a good one. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Hope he's happy. That was a little close to home on that one. So
that one was close to home. Yeah. That one was a little more on the personal level for me. Yep. So tell me how you got into the business.
Sure. Real quick. I assume he's loving his place.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So I got in the business. I'm on a family team. It's me, my mom, my dad, who have been in the business almost 20 years. And when I was in college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of had an idea, which was going to be in the film industry. And then I realized that just wasn't going to work out how I wanted it to. So my parents told me, why don't you get your real estate license just to have it? And if you never use it, you never use it. But again, something good to have. So I saw the jobs my buddies were getting after college. And I was like, there is no chance I'm doing any of these jobs. So I went and got my real estate license, failed the test 6 times. I failed it 5 times, passed it on the 6th. I decided finally after the 5th try and wasting like $35 at a time that I should probably study. So I spent one night, crammed it all together, passed the next day. They knew me by name inside the Larson building, or not Larson, whatever place it was that I took the test, and finally passed it. And then pretty much the next day, I went and spent my last $1,200 on an iMac and put it in the office and hit the ground running. And when I started, I didn't obviously have any money because I spent it all on a computer because I thought that's what I needed to do, even though I already had a perfectly good computer. And I started hitting social media really hard. And then that's kind of been the bread and butter ever since. And I got into the business kind of on accident. It just seems to have worked out pretty well.
It's worked out really well for you. You've been able to build some interesting platforms for yourself since then too.
Yeah.
And I believe that you are doing some coaching sessions for new realtors as well.
Yeah. So this came up during COVID. I'm on all these Facebook groups, Lab Code Agents, Real Estate Mastermind, some others. And during COVID, there was like that brief period before all the craziness happened where every realtor on these pages was like, what are we going to do if nobody buys a house during COVID? What if this is the end? This is the end of the housing market. So someone asked on, I think it was Lab Coat Agents, they said, how are you getting your business? Like, I need to know how to pivot. And I commented and I said, yeah, I do over 97% of my deals from Facebook, not paid ads, just organic reach through Facebook. And I got almost, I think that time it was over 1,000 emails because I included my contact information. It was just like, yeah, if you want some tips, just email me. And I got 1,000 emails. Took my inbox from like 10% to 100%. And so I probably missed some emails too with people just asking for information. And then a week later, I saw the same post pretty much in Real Estate Mastermind. So I did the same thing. And then I got like 900 emails. And then at first I had this like cheat sheet that I would send to people for $25. And after I realized people were willing to pay me $25, I decided, you know what, I could probably do like hour-long calls, but I still charged $25. And then I was talking to my broker and I'm like, yeah, because my broker is a Tom Ferry certified coach. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to do this coaching thing. Like I'm teaching people social media skills, blah, blah, blah. She's like, what are you charging? I said, $25 an hour. And she said, how much do you make selling real estate? I was like, I don't know, $500 an hour or something, whatever it is. And she's like, so why are you charging $25 to teach the people from the stuff you've learned, why are you charging $25 an hour to teach them that? And I'm like, you're right. So up the price, decrease the people I was sending stuff to, ended up with 133 students, and recently cut that in half, raised the price, and I'm going to do it again. But ultimately, my end goal in real estate is to just be like a travel keynote speaking type of person that coaches. And that's my like 5-year plan, is to not sell real estate anymore and to just do that.
Okay. I can see you doing that.
I love it. It's awesome. I've got agents, and my coaching is kind of set up where like, it doesn't matter if you've been in the business 70 years, which means you probably haven't adopted social media, or if you're brand new, it can go whichever direction. And it's amazing to me that the amount of people that reached out to me and that are like, I've never even thought about using Facebook for,
I don't know
business.
how. I don't know like,
how in 2022 or 2020, when this started, how are you not using social media yet? And I'm very biased to Facebook because that's my moneymaker. But there's people, I've got buddies in the industry who do the same thing on Instagram, LinkedIn. Facebook's just my thing. And I pay for coaching for some of my buddies that do the Instagram stuff. So there's not a one size fits all kind of thing, but I tried to cater to, the brand new guy or the, person that's been in for 1,000 years, which there are a lot of in this business.
And what I like about your social media is the fact that you don't just put a picture up there and say, oh, went under contract in less than 24 hours.
So that's, especially right now,
you tell the story.
You have to tell a story because
people love stories.
People love stories, but people also think that our entire industry as a whole is overpaid. So if you just throw up there, hey, I sold this house for $100,000 over list price in 2 days, then you've got Joe Schmo on the other end going, wait, you got $100,000 over list price. The house was already $750,000. So in their head, they're calculating what 3%.
They're doing the math, right?
They're doing the math, and then it just further perpetuates this thing that we're overpaid. So if you tell the story, you tell the hoops you had to jump through to get stuff done, because not all of them are as easy as just contract, title work, lending, done, finish line. No one sees the 7 a.m. wake up call from the angry client or the midnight email that you have to respond to over whatever. Right. They just see that you cashed a check and 30 days goes when you met these people. But I've got people that I've been working with for 4 years and still haven't bought a house. So by the time it closes, I'm on like $6 an hour. And so I got to tell the story about that.
Yeah. And then, you always close with, this is why it's important to close with a full-time realtor. Yeah. That's your number one thing there.
That's my
niche.
My MO.
Is that what you want to call it?
My MO, my credo. No regrets.
Hashtag.
Full-time realtor, full-time results. I probably stole that from somebody, but it's true because even the one we closed second most recently, they had another agent and could not get a house under contract.
Yeah, that particular one, their agent that they had originally gone with was actually his father.
Yeah. But part-time.
But part-time.
Which is fine. If you want to do it part-time, I get it.
Yeah.
It can be a good side hustle if you know what you're doing. But house after house, they kept losing. And I think once they hired me, we were in a contract in 24 hours.
Yeah, basically.
And then we got some sort of credit. I don't know if it was like a roof credit. There was something with that deal. I just don't remember what it was. But not only we beat them in the house, we beat out multiple offers. Obviously you closed the loan 30 days later and everybody was, ready to go. But there's a big difference between somebody who, it's no different than I hate realtors that compare themselves to lawyers and doctors, but the only comparison is that a lawyer only becomes a lawyer when they're practicing law. You could go get your law degree and you can go get the whatever the bar certification is. And you could just never you can say you're a lawyer, but you're not practicing law. So if you're not practicing real estate, then you don't know the inner workings of the deals or how to save stuff when things arise. And if you're only doing 2 deals a year, you're not going to know what the fuck you're doing.
And it would have to be said for the same in the mortgage industry, because, if you're not, the mortgage industry is forever changing on a daily basis. Guidelines are changing, rules are changing, new programs are coming out, programs are going away. And in that respect, if you're not in it, then you have no idea what's going on. So someone who may have been in the business 5 years ago have no clue what we are utilizing as tools these days.
And then, on top of that, like, I think when you first start out in real estate, you're pretty much a part-time agent for the, first while, because you don't have the deals, you don't have the clientele, you're trying to get it, but you don't have it yet. And I think there's a big problem in our industry with the agents who have been in it for a long time, treating the new guys like they're all part-timers. So like for me, if I'm dealing with an agent, not that I've been in this forever, I'm 7.5 years, something like that. But if you're dealing with an agent that's brand new, offer a helping hand and don't be so quick to be so condescending towards the new agent, because we were all new once. And I think that's a big problem in this industry is when you get some deals under your belt and you've been doing it for years, you think that you're above everybody. And you forget that you started somewhere. Well, that's the thing. And it's less humbling. You were day one at one point and you had 0 deals under your belt. And if you're dealing with an agent like that, offer the helping hand, because that helps lift up the entire industry when people do that. And it could be the difference between a part-timer going full-time, because someone could have taught them something along the way that helps them get to that point. That boosted that. And if you're not doing that, like I've had agents 7.5 years in, 300 something transactions where they've been in the business 20 years and they have 1,000 transactions and they talk to me as though I've never done a deal in my life. And I'm like, okay, there's stuff I don't know 7.5 years in. But if you know that, just tell me and we'll fix it. But don't be like, I hate it. It's my biggest pet peeve about this industry is that it's the biggest measuring contest. And I hate that about this industry. Lend a helping hand, help the part-timer become the full-timer. The more good agents there are, the better we all can be. And the better that it's perceived as a business. Yeah. Well, and then more respect within the country, the consumer base, like there's less people that are going to say, there's definitely agents. I mean, I've done deals where I feel like I'm overpaid for sure. I remember like coming in, and like I already knew, it was basically like I knew what an escrow deposit was. I knew what an inspection period was. Just like the very basic stuff. And that did make a big difference. But I also had coaches that they've got thousands of transactions under their belt. So if I had a question.
I didn't even know how to spell FHA when I got into this business.
What does FHA stand for?
Federal Housing Administration.
I guess I know more than I thought. There's still stuff, like literally there's stuff. Fortunately whenever I have a question that arises with like a very experienced agent, which there are a lot of that I've worked with in the past, and I've got coaches basically built into our team where I can be like, hey, Dad, what is this? What is that line of the contract? And then I'm also, kind of going off on a little tangent here, but I'm not necessarily the contract guy on our team because my dad is our transaction coordinator. So there's a lot of contract. I'm a seller is what I am. And I'm the marketing guy. That's with the beard. Yeah, that's it. Epic beard. And so I'll tell people up front, I'm not the contract guy. If you've got a question about line 8E, I know this because I just dealt with it before I walked in here. And line 8E is when a seller, when a listing agent can retain 50% of the escrow deposit if a buyer defaults on the contract. I just learned that today, and I'm 300 something transactions into this. So it helps to have those people, whether it's on your team or not, that you can call and say, hey, what exactly is this? Because I don't want to make a fool of myself. So explain this to me. And there's a lot of people that just aren't willing to lend a hand at all because there's like this threat of competition, I think.
But there's so many people out there looking for homes. The competition, it shouldn't.
There's more money to go around than anybody can. No one can do all the deals. And I hate the agents that think that they can. It's just not realistic, and it'll never happen. There's so many. I don't know how many transactions were done in Lee County in the last year, but
I would have to assume a ton because of all the people that are moving down here.
And I think there's 16,000 agents between Lee and Collier County, something like that. Probably like 5,000 of them actually do any business at all. And then of those 5,000, there's like 2,500 that are actual top producers.
And I think that the biggest misconception is that the second you get your real estate license, that you're going to become this Mac Daddy top producer. And it's not like that at all. You have to put into the work.
And there's a lot of ego. And I mean, I remember, so my first transaction was, I knew I was getting licensed. Well, I guess I didn't know because I kept failing the test, but during me failing the test over and over again, I was messaging people I went to friends with on Facebook. Hey, I'm about to get my real estate license. You know, if you or anyone you know is ever, and this was actually the inception of my Facebook marketing, was I was reaching out to my high school friends. Hey, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell a house, I'm about to get my real estate license. You know, I'd be happy to help. So she was like, yeah, I'm actually looking for something to rent. And I was like, well, have you thought about buying? And she said, no, I didn't know if I could. I don't know I don't know how it works. I was like, I don't know how buying works yet, but I'm going to figure it out. So let me get back to you on like how much you have to put down, all this kind of stuff. So I get back to her and she's like, actually, this makes total sense because the place she was looking to rent was going to be like $7,500 to move in. And the mortgage payment and down payment on her first place, it was $163,000. It was $168,000. The appraisal came in at $163,000. They adjusted the price. Her mortgage payment all in was like $1,000 and her down payment was what's 3.5 of $163,000, like $7,000, something like that ish.
Yeah.
So all in, she basically came to the table with, it may have been a little more.
Closing costs and prepaids. Yeah, probably around that.
Those were paid, of course. So that was my first deal. My first closing was within 2 weeks of getting licensed. I was like $6,000 paycheck or whatever. No, $5,000 paycheck. I was like, I am balling. And
What'd you buy with your first paycheck?
I bought a whole new set of golf clubs.
I bought
a whole new set of golf clubs, new golf bag, new rangefinder, 2 golf outfits, putter. I bought everything, shoes. And then I had $0 again because I spent my last $1,200 on that iMac before. So I thought I was untouchable. And then it took me like 6 months to get another deal.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, fortunately I lived at home at the time. I just moved back from school. So I didn't really have any bills, but it took 6 months. And so now when I'm teaching new agents, I'm like, listen, prepare to not have any deals. If you get them, they're almost like bonus when you're first starting. Especially like if you're not spending any money on marketing or anything. And I put $0 into marketing to this day. I've never spent a dime. But just doing it organically proved to be tough. But now I've got these like little tips and tricks I've learned along the way for like marketing that, makes it that I still run my business off of now. But there's a lot of ego in this business. So if you can get over that thought of your first deal thinking that you're the shit, then you're going to be way better off in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to ask you a question. So you mentioned seller concessions, how the closing costs were all paid and everything like that. I know you keep a running tab.
$625,000 in seller concessions paid by sellers in the last 7 years.
And then in some of the deals that we've done, we've had the contract and then no seller concessions and then turned around after the fact. And I think that there was one in particular at the same complex, the same project that it was
Foxmoor?
Yeah, Foxmoor. Yeah. Where you turned around and you got another, I think like what, $7,000 in seller concessions?
Is that Erica?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think no, it was a couple of different things. One, so I think we didn't have seller concessions, and then we didn't have seller concessions, went under contract. Appraisal came in low. The appraisal was supposed to come in at 127, and I want to say it came in at like 115 or 117, something like that. It was low. And we were like, okay, seller, well, time to justify your price. We got the appraisal amount raised to like 125. And then I want to say that we negotiated an additional $5,000 in seller concessions. I don't even know why that would have happened. I don't remember the exact.
I think I have a remembrance of this because in that particular community, they only cover a certain percentage of their flood insurance. So the borrowers have to get a special flood insurance, what we call a supplemental flood insurance policy.
Yeah. So maybe it was just the difference. It was like the $2,500 because it was like $4,000. And I want to say the policy you can get yourself was like $1,500, but it was like $4,000 total or something along those lines. $3,000 total, maybe.
And I think that was the last one that we just did. It was kind of wild.
We've had a lot of wild ones over the years. Absolute nightmares turned into. I was telling my wife before I came here, Allie. I can't remember exactly what happened, but she had to get she had a gift, but what happened? She had a gift, but I think it wasn't seasoned. So we had to get seller concessions or something along the lines. Whatever it was like the day before closing, and I was in Vegas. And we had to pull something out of a hat involving a family member. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's just one of many things we've come across.
Creative transactions.
And it's things that, again, full-time agents would know this. Part-time agents,
full-time mortgage lenders.
Right. Would not know this kind of stuff.
No.
Or be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
All they can do is say no.
Or say no, but you also need to have a sense of creativity and thinking outside of the box. And I kind of feel like that's what makes us a great team in that space is that, okay, here's our problem. How do we solve this problem? We can do this, this, or this, or we go back to the drawing board. Okay, this, and this might work. See what you can do on your side. I'll see what I can do on my side. And then somehow, some way, by the craziness that ensues of us, we make the transaction close.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like a real horror story that has happened. Fortunately, we've gotten, I think all of them closed.
Yeah.
That we've worked on. I don't think we've ever had somebody that wasn't able to close. But I know there's just been some doozies that we've worked on in the past. And
I just sat back and just wondered how we even got it done.
Yeah. A lot of sleepless, late nights and sleepless nights thinking about, all right, how exactly am I going to come up with an additional $5,500 for this person in the next 2 days, without just telling them that they need to call their mom and ask for a gift letter right now. And
I think we've had them do that.
Oh, for sure. I had them do that.
Yeah.
I guess maybe a little important to say, like when I first started, my entire niche was first time home buyers. That's all I did, which is why my closing cost counter is so high at 625, because every deal I was like the go-to guy that was like, Adam, my friend just bought a house with you. He said they spent $0 out of pocket. And I'm like, yeah. Cause that was back when down payment assistance was a thing too. Mm-hmm. So you could literally, like my sales pitch to people was like, listen, just let's fill out the application and let's see if
I
we
think
can
at that point, we didn't do a lot of down payment assistance. We did not, I know that we have not done a lot of down payment assistance. I think it's just sheer creativity because, at that time, interest rates were at a certain point where they were, giving back credits and you had all kinds of different things going on.
Right.
And home prices then, were largely different.
3-2 of the pool for $225,000.
Yeah.
And now there's 3 houses on the market today for less than $225, and you pretty much have to tear them down. Things have changed in the last 7 years. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But we're still here. And I think the big thing that we're going to see if interest rates continue to rise, which that's your department, are they continuing to go up? I don't check them every day. I have no idea.
I would say, there's obviously no crystal ball here, but watching the markets, it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different theories that are bouncing around out there. I think that they've kind of leveled off a little bit, but in 2019, I'd said this to you several times too. If I had thought where interest rates were going to go in 2020, we're kind of, if you stamp out 2020 and you take out 2021, we're right back-ish where we left off in 2019.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm telling people right now, basically, is that the 2.5% was fake.
It's gone.
It'll never come back. And this may be a bad example to give people, but it's the only thing I can come up with on my side of the business is that if you were to lend a friend 10 grand, would you ever lend him 10 grand at 2.5%? And they'd always say no. I would never lend a friend 10 grand.
I would bump that number up 10 grand. I would bump that number up to 100 grand.
At 2.5%.
And everybody,
But my spiel is like, why would a bank do this? That was not sustainable for a bank.
exactly.
Okay. So just don't compare yourself to, 2 years ago. That's the big thing here. Everybody wants to look in the past. I'm like, okay, yeah, your interest rate was 2.5%. We didn't have COVID. That didn't exist when they were, well, I guess a little bit when COVID was, around. Well, still is around, but they need to get it out of their head and stop looking in the past. And because you can only control the future, right? So stop worrying about, man, if I would have bought 2 years ago, I would have had 2.5%. All right. Well, you weren't in a position to buy 2.5 years ago. So now here's your interest rate.
Well, and then you take into consideration the new construction, because I have some borrowers right now that went into the new construction because that was the idea, right? Go in a new build, and they started this process back in July of last year. They started this process in October of last year when interest rates were still sitting at 3%. And now that's not what they're looking at. And they're scratching their heads wondering why they didn't get that.
Yep.
We don't know when you are closing on your house. In fact, you were supposed to close in May of this year, but due to supply and the short of supply and everything like that, that's not what's happening now.
Yeah.
You're looking at September, and that's almost a year later.
I had a client just close.
That's what the big builders.
This was a big builder, and they were 6 months delayed. They went from having like a 3.25 to a 5.6.
Mm-hmm.
And this was $1 million house. So you're talking a substantial difference in payment. Yeah. That one didn't feel,
Ouch.
but they buy their house under contract for like 7, and it was worth like 1.1 in the appraisal. So they're okay. They have
So when
a ton of
interest
equity.
rates kind of level out and everything like that, they'll be able to refinance that. And
Yeah,
when you're talking about $1 million house, like it counts in the pennies, but
they'll be okay. Trust me, those people are okay.
I want to do that loan next time.
I guess I don't want to out the company on the. It was the builder's mortgage company.
Of course.
But they were 6 months delayed. I have a buddy in the industry whose clients, their house was delayed an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And they went from like a 2.5, but those people, their house was under contract. They bought it for $1 million, and it appraised for 2.1.
Ooh.
They never sold, or they never lived there. They sold it immediately.
I've got 2. I'm anxious to see what the appraisals are going to come in at.
I've had 2 appraisals come in low in the last 60 days.
I had one recently come in $38,000 low.
How much was the house?
They went under contract at $344.
Whoa.
Settled on, the appraisal came in at $306. They landed at $308 with a borrower coming to the table with an additional 2. Closing tomorrow, as a matter of fact. That's my first Hometown Heroes program.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. That's
substantial in that price range.
It's huge.
You're talking $1 million, 38 grand doesn't matter, but not that it doesn't matter, but that's a 10% difference in.
And they started out, I think, in negotiation, it was listed at $329. So they went up, and
seller concession, or they
no seller concessions.
Multiple offers.
I think it was multiple offer situation. Yeah.
That's pretty much just what I assume every house is anymore, is just multiple offers. And just when we started to see that, I think it was like starting to cool off, buyers were pulling back a little bit. I listed 2 properties 2 weeks ago, one for $575, the other for $325. The $575 is closing next week for $600, and the $325 is closing in 2 weeks for $345.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Out of nowhere.
So you literally took first-time home buyers, put them into homes, and build your business on first-time home buyers, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of seller's concessions. And then it seems as if you've kind of shifted your focus a little bit more towards the listing side of real estate.
Yeah, well, I definitely started first-time home buyers because they were like, I'm 31 now. I was 24 when I started.
You're so old.
I know. All these gray hairs.
Yeah.
Things. So it was like, I don't want to call them low hanging fruit, but it was because I was 25. All my friends from high school were like graduating college, getting their first job. And they're like, okay, well now I can buy a house. And this was when a townhouse was like 170 grand. Now they're worth 400, a lot of those. And, so I went after them. And then with that, like my marketing went up because then I started doing the closing cost thing. So like I could pretty much guarantee that if you came to me as a first time home buyer, you weren't going to you were going to get your closing costs paid for, period. There almost wasn't even a question about it because I used to submit every offer. I had some clients back then that I would submit offers for with millions of dollars in the bank, 850 credit scores or whatever. W-2 jobs making 500 grand a year. And I'd be like, hey, do you want to save like 10 grand? And they're like, of course. So I would write the offer with $10,000 in closing costs. They didn't need it, but I still got it. And they wanted that instead of just a price reduction, because a $10,000 price reduction on 30 years doesn't matter. So we'd give them 10 grand in closing costs, and I was doing it for everybody.
They were going to take the liquid cash that they kept in their pockets, go and invest it somewhere and make 30 grand off that 10 grand you saved them.
Or like when I was big into like first time home buyers, you know, the people that didn't have $1 million in the bank, it was, hey, why don't we get you $5 grand, $7,500? I know you need some furniture for this new place. So save the money and then spend it on furniture and stuff you actually need for the house.
But don't put it on a credit card.
Don't put it on a credit card.
I don't think did we ever have anybody lose a job right before closing? I don't think so.
No, my mom had somebody a few years ago. It was like a $600,000 deal, nightmare client, nightmare seller. This was when a property would sit for 60 days and that was like normal. And the people were a few days away from closing. They went and bought a car. And then my mom lost the listing. And yeah, so don't buy a car or finance anything before closing. And if your realtor is not telling you that, you need to fire them.
Amen.
I lost one over a lawnmower.
Finance the lawnmower?
Veteran. It was a VA loan in the Cape. And about a week before closing, he went out and financed his brand new John Deere at Lowe's, and it tanked him below the threshold, and no house to move into. Had a lawnmower though.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, I take that back. I just had one on one of my listings. It wasn't my buyer, but they went and financed furniture. This was like a couple days after we went under contract. But they financed like 20 grand in furniture.
When we bought, even the furniture guy knew not to buy furniture before you buy a house. Well, and like, because we walked in and we put it in my name. We put the house in my husband's name, and we're like, yeah, we're buying a house. And the guy's like, whoa, hold on. The guy behind the counter, he's like, whoa, stop. He was like, wait a second. Are you sure you want to finance this? I don't think you should do this. And they're like, we're putting it in my name. I'm not on the loan. He's like, oh, okay. And I just started laughing because I was like, listen, I'm a mortgage lender. I know, but I appreciate the lookout.
It's funny because like I've had people the opposite where like they'll close and then they'll call me like, hey, are we officially closed? I'm like, yeah. I was like,
can I do this
2 seconds
now?
ago. I was like, what are you going to buy? And they're like, furniture. I'm like, do whatever you want, man. Go finance 100 grand in furniture. You can do whatever you want now. And then they're like, okay, I'm on my way to American Signature. But yeah, I just had one a couple days after winter contract. Agent calls me. She's like, yeah, they went out and financed a bunch of stuff. So we have to back out. And that ended up costing my seller $90,000 because the next contract we accepted after being on the market again for 60 days was for 635 was the first one. 540 is where we're closing at.
Are you starting to see houses stay on the market longer?
If they're priced right, no. That's why this 575 listing and the 325 listing both sold for over asking. I priced them spot on, like 20, 30, 40 showings at a time. It's the people who are catching the tail end of the craziness that are still thinking like, hey, I can get whatever price I want. So they're putting their house up for $50,000 more than it's relatively, because like my price range is like 4 to 750 ish. So like the people whose house is worth 750, if they're going to list at 8 or 825, that's going to sit there. But the houses that are priced properly, they're still gone like that. It's just these people who are trying to take advantage of the market of the last year and a half that are having issues with selling. But no, if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. And we still have a ton of cash here. So, and we will. Yeah. The more they keep locking down all the northern states, which they're, I think, about to do again, and in California, every time they even hint at that, we tend to have an uptick in like website hits and stuff. It's actually kind of crazy to watch. Like LA just announced a couple of days ago, I believe, that they're going to go into a 2-week mask mandate, and our website went up like 6%, 6.5%.
Had a lot of California people coming through.
I've never had a California client in my life until a year ago. And now I've got 20 or 30 Californians as my clients. And
We
like,
thought it was the New Yorkers, but no, they're trekking clear across the United States to get to us.
what's happening, I think,
Florida
is
freedom.
they're starting in California. Typically, Californians go to Texas, Colorado, Arizona, and then they go to those places and they're like, whoa,
and
this
Oklahoma,
is crazy.
I think Oklahoma is one of them too.
Oh, and Idaho is like popping off right now for some reason. Don't even want to visit that place, let alone buy a house.
It's actually really
there.
pretty.
I'm sure it is. No thanks. There's not a beach there. They're going there and they're like, okay, this is crazy. Where can we keep going to? And then like, all right, Florida, beaches, sand, sunshine. So then they make it all the way here.
Because that's what they're used to in California anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Beaches, sun, sand.
And then like a
Freedom.
lot of Californians moved to Austin because it's like the blue dot in the red state. And so they moved to Austin and they go, whoa. Because even in Austin, still houses are like 100, 200 grand over list price.
That's crazy.
And I watched through my coaching, I watched this happen because I remember I had my first coaching client ever. His name was Bill. And this was like a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. And he was like, yeah, man, I've got like 200 people lined up down the road at this open house. My last listing sold for 400 grand over list price. So I was like, yeah, we don't have that here yet. Almost exactly 3 months later, I've got some coaching. I've got some students. I hate saying that, but I guess it is what it is. Clients, I guess, in Austin. And 3 months after the Californian thing, they're like, yeah, I've got 200 people lined up down the road, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 months after that, we still never got the 200 people lined up down the road thing here, or 200 grand over list price on a $500,000 house. We might be at like 25 or 50 over list price, something like that. But then 90 days later was when we started getting our own version of the craziness. But then I also saw these price reductions happening from California over to here too. So we're 6 months behind California based on what I've seen like throughout my coaching.
I think that the last deal that I had the borrower was selling in California and coming here, and he could not get anybody to buy it. It was a horse ranch out there in wine country, apparently. And he had a nice place. It was a really, really nice place. I think he was trying to sell it for like $970,000 and he couldn't get it sold.
Yeah. It's
went under contract for a place down in Naples for $500,000 and just couldn't make the deal.
It's crazy the value that people from the West Coast see when they come here. Or even New York. I pick on New Yorkers all the time on podcasts and stuff, but it's because they sell their like 2-bedroom flat for like $1.5 million. And then they come here and they're like, wait, 3-2 pool with a fenced in yard built in 2019 for $450. Yeah. Give me 5 of them. And we're like in the perfect, I love Florida. So we're like in the perfect place where like we go to other places and we're like, this is so overpriced. We get sunshine and a beach.
I know somebody in Colorado that has a 500 square foot condo and they sold it for over $750,000.
My brother-in-law lives in Cherry Creek, like in downtown Denver, basically. It was a really nice area in Denver. He has a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom built in the 50s that he bought a year ago-ish for like $570. 3-1 built in the 50s. It's like, including the basement, it might be 1,800 square feet, but just the livable space is like 900 square feet.
Yeah, she's got a 500 square foot condo that she sold for over $750,000.
Downtown Denver.
Aspen.
Oh yeah, Aspen's like
500 square feet in Aspen.
Aspen is nuts.
But Aspen's not much different than here. I mean, when you break it down, it's a vacation destination.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah. You sell the mountains and the ski resorts.
That's it.
Aspen is Naples, but in the mountains.
Yeah, yeah. We sell sand and sunshine. They sell snow and mountains.
Yeah, Aspen's beautiful. Colorado's beautiful in general. I don't know why people leave there, but
I used to live there.
What part?
I've have family in Divide, Denver, Boulder. My sister lives in Johnstown by Loveland, just north of Denver. And I've had Woodland Park, Cripple Creek.
Everywhere.
I've got people all over those little mountains.
Denver and the surrounding cities is just a really cool area. I love, like, we go see my brother-in-law all the time. Cause it's just it's an easy flight and there's no easy flights anymore, but,
yeah, but
we go there but it's crazy. Like we'll drive around and I'm like, Jake, how much is that house? He's like, oh, that just sold for 900. I'm like, that?
Yes, we're gonna have to drive an hour outside of Aspen just to get a hotel room, and was prepaid, non-refundable. So I just spent decent amount of money for our kids' vacation, Christmas vacation. They've never seen snow, so we're excited about that.
It's amazing how many people in Florida have never seen snow. I have buddies who like.
I grew up in it, so it's different.
I'm from West Texas, and no one ever thinks of snow when they think West Texas, but like it used to where I'm from.
You get all the seasons there.
Yeah, big time. But we would also, I remember growing up, like I'd go to school dressed for.
Oh, here comes I walked uphill
10
in
degrees.
the snow.
No.
In 10-degree weather.
I never had to walk.
Day, you 31-year-old, you're
back
so
in my
old.
day, when it was rough. But no, because of the seasons there, we used to go to school dressed for 10 degrees in snow. And when we'd get out of school at 3, whatever time we got out, I was wearing shorts and like a tank top. Because we'd go from 10 degrees to 110 degrees in like 12 hours.
And you had a special backpack for all your other clothes.
I don't remember, but probably, yeah. But then we'd have the opposite. We'd go dressed, in a tank top and shorts, and then we'd get out of school and it was snowing. And
so it was kind of like Florida bipolar weather, but with all of the seasons involved.
Yeah, but not as pretty because everything around my hometown is dirt and oil rigs. So,
oh yeah,
I'm not from a pretty part of Texas, that's for sure.
Texas has a lot of rigs, like factories and stuff like that. I've noticed that.
I mean, there's just oil refineries and stuff everywhere, and especially where I'm from, oil country. I'm like from basically like here's New Mexico and like here's the corner of Texas. I'm from right there, like it's in the middle of oil country.
So the little hammers. I call them. I used to call them ground hammers.
We had one in our yard.
I grew up in Oklahoma, which is another oil state, and literally we would just drive by and I'm like, why do they keep hammering the ground?
Yeah, we had one because we lived in like just a normal single family community, and there's one like literally in our back. It wasn't technically in our backyard. It was like we had alleyways in Texas. We don't really have those here, but right. It was like
it was right behind your house in between, and then they had
it was like backyard, alley, but then there was just vacant land, and on the vacant land there was one of those hammer things. And then when we lived hammers, we lived on a ranch for the last 3 years that I lived there, and we had multiple of those things on the actual property. I really don't know what they do. I never asked. I was also 11.
I still to this day don't know what they do. I'm gonna have to Google that after this.
Well, it makes sense that they pull oil out of the ground.
What are land hammers?
It doesn't go anywhere. Like I don't know what it's exactly pulling out.
Maybe they have like piping somewhere that it just uses for suction and it pulls the oil out. So this is why we're good in real estate, because we sit here and we figure this stuff out.
Maybe there's a tank underground, so it pulls it out and you don't see the tank, and then they come get the tank.
Yeah, and it like just kind of suctions the oil
out. If there's any oil
somewhere.
Experts listening when this goes live, let us know. Well, how do those hammer things work? We clearly do not have a clue.
Land hammers?
That's gonna be the best Google search ever.
Yeah.
What does a land hammer
What's
do?
a land hammer? And why are they talking about it on a podcast about mortgages and real estate?
Hey, this is more than mortgages, though, so we'll give it that one. We need to know about the land hammers.
Yes.
And then, so going back to your social media, one of the other things that I noticed that I actually pay attention to is you have a very specific niche that you are consistent about. And I think every man in the United States would probably have to agree with loving this particular subject, Sheets Eats.
Oh, yeah. So
how did you do and come up with Sheets Eats?
I was like, where is she coming?
Yeah.
Where is she going with?
It's all about the food, people.
So I'm a big believer in like supporting the community that you thrive in. And one of the things that the reason it's called Sheets Eats was just because it just makes sense phonetically. Is that the right word? Phonetically? Right? That's when something
sounds good.
Rhymes?
Yeah.
So phonetically speaking, I think if that's the right word, Sheets Eats just made sense to do. And what I was like, you know what? I love food, big foodie, my wife and I love going out to eat. So let's just pick a restaurant every week and we'll do a write-up on them and share it. Cause like our Facebook business page, I think it's got like 3,500 people that like it. And when I post a Sheets Eats, it'll support that restaurant because we get like between like 8,000 and 10,000 impressions on anything that we post. The Sheets Eats are always a little bit, higher engagement and
because everybody loves food.
Everyone loves food, and it's like pictures and stuff for people to actually click on, look at the menu, that kind of thing. So they do really well. So I just started picking a restaurant every week to post on our Facebook page. And and I'm running out of ideas because I've been doing it for like 4 years now, and I do one every single week. So I'm at like 400 restaurants, and I'm grasping at straws here to find new ones. But I got a passion for food, and for the most part, the businesses support it. I've only had a couple people that have had an issue with it, specifically a pizza place downtown that I won't call by name. But they, for the most part, everyone's welcome to it. Now I'm getting like, hey, can you post my restaurant on Sheets Eats for like these new people that opened up during COVID? During COVID, we did like restaurant bingo and stuff. So if you would eat at the restaurants, like we were working out deals with restaurants. If you say the Sheets team sent you, you get like 10% off.
Nice.
That kind of thing. And so we were doing Sheets team bingo. So we had like the sheet, that if every time you ate at one, you know, mark it off. And then I can't remember, we gave away something. It was like $100 gift card, something small, but people love to see that you're supporting the community that, you know, you thrive in, and not just taking and taking and taking, which is why you see a lot of agents, mortgage people that like, yeah, if you buy through me, I'll give X amount back to charity of your choice, like local charity of your choice. Because
right.
It's good to support them.
And then every holiday, I think every Thanksgiving, you guys do a food drive for.
Yeah, we didn't do it during COVID, but before it, we were doing a food drive. I can't remember who it was for, but we've done like, was it Harry Chapin?
Harry Chapin.
Yeah. So like
Midwest.
we do stuff with them. I really like the interactive stuff. So when we were doing the food drives, we were collecting the food, we were finding the families ourselves, we were delivering the food ourselves. Cause we're not, you know, we're not successes without the community.
Right.
Even if we're not, you know, helping the people out that are going to buy houses, but you know, it still helps to be out there. So yeah, we've done like Habitat for Humanity and all that stuff too.
And then I know that your broker is, I want to say, and I'm just guessing here, from what I could gather, she's a military mom.
Yeah.
So she heavily supports the military.
Yeah. Her son was in the, I don't know which branch, but yeah. And now he's a local cop. So yeah, she's big on the military.
Yeah, because right out in front of your office on Del Prado,
I think it's like all the branches.
It's all the branch flags.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not, I guess I've only seen that. I don't really pay attention. I don't go to that office because I'm not in that office. But yeah, I think you're right. That sounds correct. I'm in the Fort Myers office.
Oh.
Yeah. My office is
Okay.
at Daniels and
I don't
Plantation.
even know where you're at.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I've never been here before. So I didn't even know you had an actual physical office. So.
You guys have done how many deals together? I mean, I feel like this is the first time you're actually meeting each other.
I've probably only met her. I've probably only seen you in person
A handful
five
of times.
Probably
Yeah.
5 times. Because
We can sit and have an hour-long conversation and BS about nothing, but
my wife will be like, "Who are you on the phone with?" And I'm like, "Amanda." She's like, "Who is Amanda?"
Oh yeah.
I ditched my husband for Adam.
all the time.
Adam calls, my whole entire family knows. It's done. It's business. Sorry,
it's
gotta
funny.
go.
There's not you. This isn't saying you, but like there's agents now that I've done business with, like in the past, that when they call, you have these people too, where you're like, all right, this is going to be an hour conversation. Doesn't matter if it's a realtor, mortgage person, inspector. I just have certain people that call, and I'm like, babe, this is gonna be 45 minutes. No questions about it. And I've got clients like that too, that I literally will not answer because I'm like, this is gonna either ruin my night or I'm gonna be on the phone for 2 hours.
Forever.
One of my best clients, and he's a good friend of mine now. Jeff, shout out to you if you watch this. He's a Canadian guy. And when he calls me, I'm like, this is gonna be an hour. It's a great conversation, but I know it's an hour every time he calls me.
Yeah.
So I'll text him like, hey man, I'll call you back because I know this is gonna be a long one.
My processor knows that if I'm calling, we have to block off at least 20 minutes at the very least, because it will be at least an hour conversation.
And it's I don't mind the good conversations. The people who call that turn a 20-second conversation into an hour, and I'm like, dude, I don't know why you called me anymore. I've totally forgot why you called me.
I've already answered your question.
Yeah.
18
it was in
different
the
ways.
first 20 seconds of the conversation, and now we just got onto your 52 kids and 12 wives.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, that's so crazy that your grandma had Starbucks yesterday. That's nuts. And he's like, what? I'm like, that's what you just said. But
Did you at least get the pup cup for your dog?
And I'm like, so why exactly? Oh, the inspection. That's right. That's why you called me. Yeah, deal's falling apart. Okay, let's go.
On to the next.
What else?
I think that's kind of how it's been in some of our conversations. Sometimes it's a good, quick, hey, all right, do this, and then Sometimes we've gotten on to some crazy conversations.
And it totally depends on like depends on like the mood that I'm in when I talk on the phone. Cause like sometimes people call me and I'm like, just text me. Like you don't need to call me. But like in our industry, we talk on the phone so much. So like when I have like close friends that'll text me or call me and I just won't call them for days or respond back to it. I'm the worst texter ever because I text so much. So when I have friends text me, like my buddy Brent, who owns Omni Title, he'll text me and like, sometimes I'll forget to respond for a couple of days and he'll be like, dude, are you good? I'm like, bro, I'm so sorry. I sent 1,000 texts today and I just don't want to talk about, golf right now. Or whatever.
What?
But it's because I have to talk to people. That's why I love going home and I just sit on my couch and don't say anything.
Or sometimes
for
it's just
hours.
pick up the phone, give me a 5-second conversation and let's move on.
Yeah. That's the best.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're in a talkative mood and not you, but like in general.
No, you can call me out on this.
No, it's okay. I am too. Cause there's definitely times where I like, I'll talk somebody's ear off as well. I'm not at fault here. I'm definitely on the other side of this a lot, but with like client conversations and stuff, it's, we have to have those all day, every day. So it's hard to have a good conversation with somebody after you've already talked on the phone for 4 of the 8 hours that you work that day.
Yeah. It's brain exhausting.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like, I was telling you before we started in my coaching calls, when I was lining up like 10 phone calls in a day, was like 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. By the 10th person, I have no energy left. But that goes for like, if you're dealing with like multiple deals and you have to have these conversations all day, it's the same thing. By the end of the day, I just don't want to be on the phone anymore. I don't want to text anymore. I just want to be done for the day. But in our business, it's hard to do that because
you can't, it's hard to just put your phone down because that's how you get your clients.
We work when other people are off work.
Right.
Which is, a blessing and a curse. It means I don't have to deal with anybody basically from 9 to 5 unless it's like pressing. But then as soon as they get off work, that's when a lot of my
9 to 5 is the business operation. And then after that, I feel like after 5 o'clock to let's say 9 o'clock, because I tend to cut it off at 9 o'clock. Yep. I won't go past that for my family life, but from 9 to 5, it's the business operational stuff. And then after 5 o'clock, it's the
support.
Rest.
It's like the little stuff to like get done.
Conversations and
that's my biggest thing I've adopted in the last year is cutting off work, because I would work till 11, 12, no problem responding to text. But the problem when you do that is then the client starts to think that you work all the time. So then a 12:30 a.m. phone call is no big deal to them. And if you don't answer, they're like, hey, call me. And I'm like, nothing is getting done at 12:30 in the morning. So this can wait until tomorrow. So over the last year, I've really started cutting off like 8:30, unless it's like something super pressing. But I just can't have those. I can't have those conversations. And like we deal with so many like frustrating little situations in this business that a lot of those tend to come out at night. I think in my experience, whether it's someone's at home having some cocktails, up winding down, that's when these issues become big issues.
Because they have a chance to sit down and think about it.
Right, exactly. So like I've started cutting it off and I'll call you back the next morning. But like my hard cut off, definitely 9. I really try to not do it after 8 o'clock. And I've also started to make a habit of firing people that I don't want to work with, which I never would have done a couple of years ago because I needed every deal so bad. But in the last 3 months, I've fired 3 people that I just wasn't. Actually, I'll tell this horror story real quick.
I got one.
Oh, I got a great horror story. Yeah. So this isn't about you. But
so not all real estate transactions are easy. They're not pretty. Sometimes you have the really pretty ones that are wrapped up in a bow.
Yep. So I'll tell you,
hand packed. And then you've got some of them that are really frustrating.
Yeah. And it's a frustrating thing for people. They have to turn in a lot of different documents. It's high stress. I get why people get so apprehensive when going through the process. But it's the way how a realtor and the client handles stuff. I'm going to give my easiest transaction ever, and I'm going to give my first ever firing. So easiest transaction ever, Canadian guy, calls me. This was Thanksgiving week, calls me Monday. Adam, I'm in town. So-and-so gave me your number. There's a house I really like near Cape Harbor. Let's go look at it. I'm like, okay, I need proof of funds. He's like, I got it. I don't show houses without proof of funds or pre-approval, but he was a referral from like a pretty trusted guy that I know. So I just went and showed it to him. So we see it Monday evening. Tuesday, we go look at it again so he can show his like aunt and uncle that live here. Tuesday night of Thanksgiving week, we go under contract at 11:30, had to beat out a couple different offers. 1.5 million is what the price was. Wednesday morning, the day before Thanksgiving, Brent at Omni Title, I texted him Tuesday night. I said, you need to get to work on this now. My guy wants to close before he goes back to Canada on Saturday. And he's like, dude, are you kidding me right now? I was like, Brent, if you this $1.5 million contract up for me, we're going to have issues. So he does all the title work. Wednesday morning, my guy wires all 1.5 million into escrow. Thursday is Thanksgiving. Friday morning, I get a call. Hey, it's Brent. Wait, doesn't say it like that. He's like, hey, we're closed. During Thanksgiving week, 1.5 million, went under contract Tuesday night and closed Friday morning.
And Bert's wife was like that, Adam.
Yeah. I left for San Diego that Saturday, and I spent way more money than I would have in San Diego if I didn't have that closed.
Celebration trip.
Yep.
That's what it turned into.
Happy Black Friday.
Definitely. So that's my easiest one ever. Now, there's definitely been hard ones, but I'm just going to tell this story about me firing it was really the first person I've had to do like, you're fired. 2 months ago, I get a call on a Tuesday. Hey, this is so-and-so. No, her name's Lisa. She said, hey, this is Lisa. So-and-so gave me your number. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. She's like, yeah, you sold in their house in Cape Coral. And I'm like, I don't know who it is. But anyways, what can I help you with? And she goes, well, you sold in their house. Can you help me or not? And I'm like, oh, I hate your attitude off the start. This is not going to go well, but you know what? I'll humor it. So she goes, I found this place in Cape Coral. I want to write a contract on it. Can you show it to me tomorrow? I'm here for a couple days on vacation. I said, sure, no problem. And then that Wednesday I had 4 inspections back to back. And I had an hour in between. And the house she wanted to see was like 600 feet away from one of my inspections. So it worked out really well. So I go pick her up, which is also rare, but she was here. It just happened to how it worked out. And so I pick her up. We go see this place. She loves it. She's like, okay, I want to write an offer. It was listed at $420,000. She wanted to write an offer at $395,000, which actually was in line with comps, but this was 2 months ago and the comps didn't matter and everything was made up. So I told her, I was okay, I'll write it for $395,000. Just so you know, I have after I had already done one, I had 3 more inspections. I said, I only have my phone today. I was not planning on, writing offers and this was an inspection day. Adam, I totally get it. No problem. Okay. So when I'm on my way back to drop her off, she says, oh, also I'm a realtor, so I get 25% of your commission. And in my head, I'm like, you can ask, but I'm just finding this out now and I don't have to do it. So I didn't, I just kind of skipped over the conversation. So I drop her off around noon, 1:15. Adam, are we signing this contract? She calls me. And I'm like, yeah, Lisa, I told you, like, I'm working on it intermittently. I'm working on a 6-inch screen. Bear with me, but I'm going to get it over to you. The listing agent's in my office. They have no other offers that have been listed for like 30 days already. We're fine. 2:30, same convo, a little more drunk. Are we signing the contract? And I'm like, Lisa, I told you, you're going to have to chill. I will have it to you this afternoon. We're fine. 3 o'clock, same, it was a voicemail. I didn't answer that time. And then 4:30, same call, way drunker. Adam, are you going to cost me this effing house? This and that, screaming at me. And I said, Lisa, the contract is in your email and has been for like 45 minutes. She says, it's not there. I was like, check your spam folder. And she hangs up on me. So I don't hear from her for like an hour. I had to go to a networking thing. I got home at like 5:45. I get a call from her. And she's like, I'm at a bar. I'm drunk right now, but we have still not signed this contract. If I would have known this is how you handled business, I wouldn't have hired you in the first place. And I was like, Lisa, you signed the contract. She did. It was in her spam folder.
This is why you don't sign contracts at a bar.
And she found it and she signed it like 45 minutes prior too. This wasn't like she had just signed it or something. And so she goes, signed the contract, and then she like hung up on me. And then she called me back, still yelling at me. I hung up on her. Then I texted her a summary of the offer. I said, Lisa, this is what we're offering. I will let you know when I hear back. $395,000, $10,000, whatever it was. The next day, I get a call from her like 2 o'clock, which was like 10 minutes after I had talked to the agent in my office about a counter offer. And I said, yeah, actually, they just countered at list price. And she goes, counter offer? What are you talking about, Adam? You told me last night they accepted $395,000 with this in escrow, this closing date, blah, blah, blah. I said, Lisa, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said this. And she's like, yeah, look at your text message. I said, I am right now. And it says, this is the summary of what we are offering. Do you know how to read? And at this point, I'm getting like real fed up with getting yelled at because I just don't take that from anybody. And she starts screaming. All of a sudden she goes, call me back. And I texted her. I said, yeah, I'm not calling. Literally, this is what I said to her. I am not calling you back. Good luck. And since you're a realtor, I assume you can understand why I don't want to work with you. And then I blocked her number. And I called the agent and I said, hey, if you get an offer from this lady, she's a nut and don't do business with her because she's just a terrible person. So yeah. That was my first firing, and would have been probably my worst transaction because I can only imagine. Oh, and by the way, she wanted like a 3-month close. She only wanted to put I think it was $2,500 in escrow on a $395,000 cash deal. She wanted like a 15-day inspection period, and I'm like, you got to work with me a little bit. Give me something to take these people. Yeah, she just started firing off of me, and this leads me to real quick. People will walk all over you in this business, and it's okay to fire people and not deal with a headache for a little bit of financial gain. Because, one of the things she said to me, she goes, I'm making you a lot of money here, Adam. And okay, $395, it was 2.5%. I was going to make after my split, after taxes, I don't know, $4,500. 4 years ago, $4,500 changes my life. $4,500 doesn't change my life anymore, especially not for what would have been 3 months on that closing. To deal with somebody like that for 3 months is not worth. That's my biggest lesson I can tell a brand new agent is that it is okay to say no to people.
Yeah, that's good advice there.
The paychecks just aren't worth it sometimes. We are professionals, in a professional industry. And if you don't want to treat me like a professional, then you can kick rocks.
Yeah. I don't think I've fired anybody yet. I don't know if I have.
You haven't fired anybody?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I feel like I've told somebody to kick rocks, but I don't.
I've definitely been fired too. So don't get me wrong.
They don't even fire me. They just go. They
just stop responding.
They just stop responding to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't heard from this person, and the agents probably think that I'm crazy. I'm like, I haven't heard from this person at all. Yep. What? I sent you this lead. I have not heard one single solitary thing.
I remember maybe the first time I got fired was a guy we were working with. I'm not going to say his name, but because it's old, he'll probably see this. But I was like, hey, this was like 5 years ago, and obviously way before all this madness. But I told him, I said, listen, let's write this offer. It's a perfect house. Let's get it locked down. We have an inspection period. If you don't like it, once we go see it tomorrow morning, you can back out. And then I get a text like a couple hours later. It was like, Adam, we decided to go in a different direction. We feel like you were pressuring us into buying this house. And then they lost the house because there was another offer on the table. So I'm like, well, you don't want me to do my job. You won't let me do my job. And then you're going to fire me for doing the job that tries to get you this house. You lost it. Then they had to buy an inferior product. And I hope their agent's happy with his $3,500 paycheck, what it was back then, because all the houses were way cheaper. But I've been fired, done firing. It happens.
It's okay because you got to protect your mental health.
My last year in the business, I got fired from the same transaction by the same buyer 3 times.
Yeah.
And then they come back to you, and you're like, oh man.
You'd have a conversation. We're done. I mean, it was all in all, you're fired. And then a day or two later, he'd call back. Okay, let's work through this. Well,
seller or buyer?
Buyer, but we ended up closing the deal, and it was 1.75 cash.
Ooh.
So you can fire me once or twice when we're in that realm and we're that close. But by the time I'd been fired, I had already showed them everything between 1 and 3 million that was in existence at that point in time. I mean, I think in total we went through 53 showings.
Oh my gosh.
And they would come into town for the weekend, and we'd line up 10. And when you're lining up 10, you're like, okay, it's not bad for a weekend. When they're all 5,000-6,000 square feet plus, and the buyer's taking an hour and a half, 2 hours at each house.
It's my nightmare.
You're like, oh, okay, this is not at all what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
a long time.
6 months later, they ended up having an agent come up to their front door and offered them. I think they ended up cashing out $750,000 over what they bought it for. And
So this one was recent.
yeah.
That's nuts. The amount of money that I've got clients that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and my pitch to like the younger person who's thinking about selling and like going to rent an apartment, I'm like, you're 25. Have you ever had $250,000 in the bank? No. Well, now's your time, man.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the only times in history, and maybe one of the only times we'll ever see where somebody can cash out on so much equity so fast. This is like unprecedented growth, obviously.
Yeah.
Not unsustainable growth, which is fine.
We bought our house for $280,000 and it's worth at least $350 right now. That's within this last year.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Almost $100,000 in equity already.
Yep.
It's insane.
The problem with like those people, that's great for them. But I've got some clients that spent like $600,000-$700,000 on houses like three years ago or so. And I'm like, Larry and Barbara, actually, some great clients of mine. But they don't, the money that they would make doesn't change their life. And I'm like, hey, so I really need listings. Your house is worth like 1.6. Are you interested in selling? They're like, where are we going to go? I'm like, no, that's not the answer I want.
Yeah.
Tell me that you want to sell your house and make $1 million. And Larry's like, $1 million and change my life. And I'm like, dude, work with me a little bit. Let's figure something out.
Your $1.6 million listing helps my life. So
Yes.
if we can come to an agreement,
it helps
Larry,
me a
that'd be
lot,
great.
dude. Do you know how much bills are these days? 1.6 million. Just do it. Just do it for me.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that for
Phoning in
you, Adam.
favors to people.
Yep.
Just, I need you to move your entire life
Yep.
for me.
I must have had this conversation 100 times during COVID. Like, hey, let's sell your house. No, I just bought it. I'm like, yeah, but you can make, at the time, like it started out, at first it was like, you can make $25,000. And they're like, eh. And I'm like, you can make 50, 100, 200. I'm like, what number do you want to sell your house? Let's try to get it.
You never thought that make me move section on Zillow that they've had up for years now would ever be relevant. And that's exactly what our market has been for the last, 6-8 months, year, really. It's put a price on the house and somebody's going to buy it.
I remember my first one when it got crazy was a 2-story house in Cape Coral, like Southwest Cape. It was listed at like $335. And this was like my first listing I'd taken when like, it was really like, it was starting to become known that you could cash out. And I think we had like 60 showings in an hour and a half or something. It was like basically an open house. And then I think we sold for like $375, maybe something like that. And this was like the beginning. So that house is probably worth $500,000 now.
Yeah.
But they were happy. They got 70,000, 50,000 over list price. Like they were like, dude, we crushed it.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen on a contract? Because I see like, honestly, like right now, like in the last year, I've seen like, we'll buy seller pizza for a year.
I've seen
and
those.
have you
I've
seen
never had
anything like that?
I've never had anything like that.
Maybe
at
we
all,
should give it a
actually.
try.
I've seen stuff like, I've seen pizza, not personally, just online, like tacos. I've seen Disney trips. Buyer will pay for your seller and their family to go to Disney for a week.
I'm selling my house
Like,
right now.
All that.
That's a
kind of
huge
stuff.
value, right?
Right?
there.
That's a massive, that's a whole second mortgage.
A week at Disney now has got to be $10,000 for a family of 5.
They've got to have a second mortgage on that one. If you need a second mortgage to go to Disney, please call me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't really seen anything like super crazy. Just pricing, like the amount of people I've had just, no appraisal, no inspection, don't care. Like that kind of thing is just nuts to me. But then, I've been on both sides of it too. I've had the seller, who I've been the listing agent on, deals where like, I'm like, this house is not worth more than $500,000 and the offers for $650. And I'm like, wow, what are you thinking? If you want it, you want it. And again, if you're from New York and you're cashing out $1.5 million on a 2-bedroom, in the Bronx, like, so if I have to spend $150 over, I still am not living in the Bronx anymore. And people are happy with it.
In Freedom, Florida.
Freedom, Florida is, we're kind of crushing it. A few states, Texas is crushing it too. Arizona's crushing it. Colorado's crushing it. Pretty much any state where you.
I mean, even if you look at like land value in Arkansas, because I grew up in Arkansas, if you look at the land value out there, that's almost doubled, tripled.
Tennessee, that's another one crushing it.
Tennessee's crushing it.
Most of the states who were lax on lockdowns, not to get political, but the states that were lax on lockdowns are the ones who are really thriving. There's a really cool website called howmoneymoves.com, and it shows you GDP leaving states and going to other states, and it shows you like income leaving and going. And there's billions of dollars leaving California every single day. In Florida, Florida, Texas, all these, like we're bringing in billions of dollars in income every single day. In California. What's weird though is California does still grow because there are still people that want to live in California, because everybody here thinks of California as being LA and San Francisco. The majority of California is not either of those places. So people like Northern California will move there because they don't operate the same as, Orange County.
It's like we don't operate the same as East Coast, West Coast. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's totally different. It's like a different state altogether.
Right.
Different politics, different, everything. And so, yeah, Florida's just crushing it and continues to do so. I mean, I'll always have my real estate license, but I want to travel and speak.
Yeah.
I'll tell when I have a coach, like, so I do an initial like consultation with anyone that I coach to make sure that we're a good fit. And I've had these conversations with like these 80-year-old grandmas, no offense to the grandmas. But
we love our grandma.
Yeah. But like, so like one of my main things is like when someone clicks on your Facebook profile, they should have all your contact information right there in front of their face. And so many agents have like a picture of their dog as their header photo. So I'll have these conversations with these old people and I'm like, you need to make a decision now. Are you going to use Facebook as a business tool or a social media tool? Because if you're going to use it as a social media tool and not listen to anything I have to say, then I'm not going to take money from you. But if you're willing to adopt what I'm going to teach you, then we can continue on and have the next conversation. But I've had people like, yeah, I just really like, posting pictures of my grandkids and stuff. I'm like, that's fine. We're just not a good fit. I don't need to coach you. I could take your $1,500 a month and be perfectly happy, but I'd be doing, a couple bad reviews of my coaching and then all of a sudden it goes away. So it's not worth the cash grab for that.
I mean, do you feel like it's important for people to have that mixture of personal /
I think it, so like
business, because I feel like I get more, I feel like on my social media, the second that I post something very specific to business, I don't get as much reaction.
And you never will, for a couple of reasons. And one of the big reasons is that Facebook makes money off of you paying for advertising. So if you're posting business stuff, Facebook's algorithms know that. As smart as their AI is, they know when you're posting business stuff, and it's always going to be at the
as opposed
bottom.
to when I'm posting a picture of Fluffy.
Yes, that's always going to hit harder. But that's why when you'll see, like, I have like a pretty solid formula for posting, and it's I'll post like, say I post 3 under contract pictures in a row, and then I throw in a picture of my dog, because what happens after that third post, like the first real estate post might get 50 likes and 20 comments. The second one might get 20 and 10 comments. And then the last one might get 4 likes, because Facebook's picking up, okay, you're using this as business and you're not paying us for it. So we're hiding it from everybody.
We want you to have drama on your page.
But then what you do is you post a picture of your dog, which is going to get 150 likes and a bunch of comments. What a cute dog. And then Facebook goes, whoa, something he's doing is important and people are liking it. We need to put all of his stuff back at the top of people's timelines. So for the next like roughly 14 days, all your real estate stuff will be back at the top of people's timelines. So you'll get that engagement again. So it's just a rinse and repeat cycle of real estate, personal, real estate, personal. And that's how you get that engagement to stay up.
People love animals.
People love animals. People love pictures of kids.
Food. People love food.
Oh, I thought you said who likes pictures of kids. I was like, good point.
I thought he said poo. I'm like, I don't know if anybody who likes pictures of poo. I'm sorry.
But yeah, food. People love that stuff. I mean, like, you can look online and find like the top 5 things to post for engagement on social media.
I think we have a loan officer at the branch who posts a lot about food, and that's kind of what he's known for. You know what I mean?
That's anything.
You've got another one that posts a lot of fishing.
A lot of fishing.
A lot of fishing.
I don't know who that guy is.
A lot of time.
He says he's team building.
A lot of time team building.
But he forgot his team.
He was doing it via Zoom when he was out on the boat.
Right. Yeah. That's why the background's all blurred.
I wonder how many fish he's caught from home today.
It's crazy how many fish he catches at home.
We can't include this, by the way.
Can?
We can.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say his name, Vito. We're talking about you.
Yep.
What else?
Yeah. He's like, I know that I told him at one point in time, this was a couple of years ago, he said something about, I know how you wanted to go on the boat or something like that. I was like, Vito, I will kill you. I will stab you. If you take Adam on your boat, I will never keep it. I will stab you.
We had the same pool guy too. He's getting close. He's trying to dig in. No,
you guys underestimate my ability to go to jail.
Our pool guy just fired us yesterday, so we're both looking. We're in the market for a new pool
is that
guy.
what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys underestimate my ability and willingness to go to jail.
Just got to steal his boat and take him out on the boat, and then Vito doesn't. Vito doesn't come back.
I'll send you golfing.
Amanda's plotting a murder right now.
Yeah, I can see the wheels turning right now.
Premeditated has not been brought to this table yet. I promise. There's only a few people. There's only a few people on this planet that I will, guard, for lack of better words. Not be able to use the words that I want to, but yeah, there's a few people in this world that I'll guard. It's just like there's a few people in this world that I will walk away from my family for. Adam is one of them.
Wow. That is, I'm feeling loved.
I don't know. If we clip that just the right way.
Yeah, how do you clip that? My husband knows. He'll tell you.
My
husband knows. He'll tell you. I'm like, oh, Adam's calling. He's like, all right, we'll see you in a little bit. I'm like, okay.
Got to go out to my shed.
Got to go out to my shed.
I need privacy for this phone call, please.
I need privacy for Adam to tell me how much of an idiot our buyer is.
Sometimes,
or the other agent, for that matter.
You have to have those conversations. Like for me, that was always a very important part of finding a lender that you could vibe with, that not only would get the job done, but somebody that you can call and vent to and share those frustrations with, because you go home and unless your spouse or significant others in the business, they have no clue what you're going through.
My wife and I are in totally different sectors. She's in healthcare. And so I'll give like this nightmare and she's like, man, that's crazy. I'm sorry you're going through that. And then she'll come home and she's like, yeah, this guy had his arm chopped off today and we had to fix it. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know, I'm like,
the level of crazy is like, it's neck and neck for the both of you, but it's like two totally different platforms.
Her crazy is like, dude comes in because he got a motorcycle accident and he has one limb left. And my crazy is like, somebody didn't turn in their escrow deposit on time. Yeah. So hers is way more extreme than mine is.
Very serious stuff on either side.
She looks at my problems. She's like,
what are you so worried about?
What are you so worried about? I'm like, well, there's a deadline. She's like, where are they going to extend the deadline? And I'm like, yeah, but still, they didn't turn it in on time.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. I'm like, we got bills to pay, babe. These people got to turn their escrow deposits in.
But it's funny what we look at as big problems that people on the outside are like, just like that. Oh, well, are they going to extend the deadline? Okay,
well, and
fine.
this is part of the full-time realtor talk because there's so many people that have no clue. So when you have somebody that does it and practices it, they know how to navigate around these things. There's a lot of people just shut down. I mean, like on having the buyer and dealing with a listing agent who's brand new. And I'm like, listen, they didn't turn in escrow yesterday. They messed up the date. They were out of town, whatever. And like brand new agents like, well, deal's dead. I'm like, do you want to get paid or not?
Yeah.
Do you want to get paid? Okay, then let's just give them another 12 hours. They're going to turn it in. It will be okay. Or this worked better when it wasn't, 50 offers per house. Because then if somebody didn't turn in escrow and they had a better offer that came in after ours, they're like, yeah, you're gone. We'll take the better one, which is fine. But before that, in a normal market, just make the deal happen. Agents so quickly forget that our job is to get a transaction to the finish line. Our job is not to argue against each other.
And according to the state of Florida, you're not a buyer's agent. You're not a seller's agent. You're a transaction agent.
Yes. Get it. So literally get it to the finish line is like the Cliff Notes version of being a transaction agent. And so you'll deal with people that are just, they want to draw a line in the sand over the smallest stuff. And I'm like, dude, let's get it done. I mean, I've had deals like pretty close to falling apart over like $500 in repairs at the end of a transaction or whatever. And I'm like, and no one wants to do this. And there's agents out there who swear they've never done this. And they're fucking liars. Is like, let's split $500. It's $250. We're about to make $15,000 a piece. I think we can swing it to get this done.
200. Yeah.
I've spent $3,000 on patio furniture.
Yeah.
Look, if you guys are going to kill this deal, it's $1.5 million, and you're going to kill it over $3,000 because you want the patio furniture, but you don't want to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sucks to do.
Yeah.
I've definitely said no. It depends on the client.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Cause I've got clients that I would be like,
you're not going to buy Lisa's patio
I don't want to
furniture.
pay you for your new dock, but I guess I'm paying for your new dock. I have that coming up here in the next couple of months. Actually, I know I'm going to, cause he can't find
I
a house
need a
with
new dock. I don't even have waterfront property, but I'll take a dock.
Well, if you buy,
I do have a canal.
This guy's shopping for like $4.5 million. So, which is crazy that we're not finding houses with docks or finding new construction that will not have a dock. And I told him, I was like, dude, if we go under contract on something at $4.5 million, I'll buy you a dock.
Yeah.
So I didn't put this in writing. I hope I don't actually have to buy a dock, but it's been known. We've had multiple conversations about it. And that's obviously the extreme. Usually it's like little fixes here and there.
Yeah.
But get the deals done. Nobody wants to take a pay cut. That's not our job to take pay cut. I don't reduce my commission on the listing side, but if I have to make things happen, you have to make things happen. Because why am I we're 30, 45 days into this thing. I'm about to make X amount of money. I've got all this time in, and I'm really going to say, you know what? I'm not going to take care of that. Let's start this whole process over. Yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it.
Now you got to pay somebody to put it back on or put it back on the MLS. And then you got to do all of these other marketing things. And I couldn't do it.
I get this. I have this conversation a lot with agents who feel it's their house, and I'm like, get out of the way, negotiate. Like I had an agent this past week. We submitted a low ball offer. It was a piece of shit offer, sure, but she was like, "This is just appalling that you would submit this." I'm like, "Is it your house?" No? Okay, then submit the offer to your seller and let him make the decision. And then she literally, within seconds, we didn't even get off the phone. She was like, okay, well, his counter offers list price. I was like, oh, so you talked to him. When did you get off the phone and talk to him? And I'm like, get out of the way. Call him. For all you know, he's going to say yes. Maybe it'll piss him off. Okay, if it pisses him off, it pisses him off. But at least we know. And I know you were lying because you didn't even talk to him. I was on the phone with you the entire time. And this was an agent who's been licensed for about 9 months. Get out of the way and let's try to make a deal happen.
We spend a lot of time telling buyers and sellers to lose emotion during the transaction, and the agents end up picking that emotion up a lot of times. One of my
clients who is a good friend, and he's also a pretty successful realtor up in Wisconsin. I'm dealing with this. He was the one on this house actually that we submitted such a terrible offer on. He was like, why is she getting so emotional about it? And then he said something that's going to stick with me forever. He was like, I feel like when a seller is emotional or a buyer is emotional, their agent starts acting emotional. So that seller is probably like, I know my house is worth $515. I put all this love into it. And then she picks up on that energy and then relays it to me. And
you can't blame them for having the compassion though.
No,
I mean, honestly,
I get it.
Because I feel like that our business is somewhat, I've been told at times that I need to take my emotion out of things. It's hard.
Well, it's hard.
Sometimes, especially when you're passionate. Yeah.
My buddy Kevin Bartlett, killer agent, does like 200 deals a year. Good friend of mine, and he's no emotion. Like, love the dude. He's a businessman. You know, he takes all emotion out of it, and he just gets the deal done. And it's hard to do though. Like, I'm not that personality type. I care about the transaction. I care about the person. I want the person to get the house. I want the person to get the most for their house. But if you can take just a little bit of emotion out of it, is when you start really noticing that, deals becoming a little bit easier, and you don't get like I've had situations happen where like it tears me up for hours because I'm the type that if something happens at like 9 a.m., I'll decide I'm not going to handle it till 6 p.m. I'll just let it fester all day. And then I'll get home and I'm like, babe, I got to make this phone call. And then it turns out to be nothing because I was just like, I was all worked up about it all day.
It's just terrible, isn't it?
And it's always stuff like I have to call somebody and tell them, hey, the seller doesn't want to get rid of that couch.
It's just, yeah.
Not that. That's way too
But basically, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll put this stuff off all day.
You've imagined every worst scenario in the book.
Every worst scenario.
And you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to pull the deal. I'm going to get a bad review. They're going to tell my mom what a terrible person I am. Well, like I've every imaginable worst case scenario. I've imagined it in my head. And then I'll pick up the phone and I'm like, oh, hey, by the way, the appraisal came in subject to, and we came in short. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, we'll take it down. I'm like, I just spent like all of that time freaking out for nothing.
We just double dipped a 1.7 on Fort Myers Beach, and that was a good one. And the seller, it's almost brand new house, like 4 years old. The back staircase, it's like still home. The stairs need to be rebuilt. $4,500. We spent 2 days. How in the world are we going to sell this to the seller that they have to replace these stairs? And so finally made the call, like, hey, inspection went fine, but the stairs need to be rebuilt. It's gonna be about $4,500. If you want to let them go, I totally understand. And they're like, $4,500, dude, we paid $650 for this house 2 years ago. We'll spend the $4,500 to rebuild the stairs. 2 days of festered energy for them to just be like, yeah, no problem.
Our most recent Foxmore house, if you remember, because the insurance was going to take us over, and at first the seller wasn't going to replace the roof because they thought the HOA took care of that. And we literally killed ourselves for days trying to figure out how we were going to make this deal work with the insurance. And then as soon as the sellers found out that it was actually their responsibility, they're like, yeah, we'll replace it.
There was a roof on within
2 weeks.
Week and a half. That was another one where like, I hate going to agents and asking for stuff, but I was like, all right, how do I word this?
How are we going to make this happen?
And then finally I was just like, hey, it needs a new roof. Insurance won't allow it and HOA doesn't cover it. All right, give us a roof quote. And it was like 10 grand, 7 grand, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, it'll be on next week. No big deal.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we just sit there and we fester all of that.
Well, and it's
emotion. It's emotion.
Dealing with hundreds of thousands or millions of people's dollars. And you got to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Because like for us, a lot of times it's easy to think of it like, okay, $1 million sale, $30,000, whatever. And you're thinking of it as, a paycheck because it is our job. Right. But for these people, it's their entire life.
Yeah.
It's the next 30 years sometimes.
It's their kids' first room. It's their, their retirement home. It's their, the home that they've always dreamed about. It's the acreage that they're going to put their horses and cows and fish on. And it's something to them. And I think that, we have a colleague in our branch that says, make it work because they've already picked out their bedrooms. They've already picked out their curtains and where they're going to put their couch and their TV. They do that within the first 30 seconds of walking into a house. Yep. My TV can go there. My bedroom can go here. This is how I'm going to lay it out. And that's where I think that the emotional piece can come in and play a good role in our industry. But as you state, it also kind of hinders in our business as well, because then you do get super emotional about the clients that you're working for.
Who do you think, who's the worst person to work with as far as like having a job? Like what career is the worst type of person to work with? Does that make sense? Like lawyer, doctor, engineer, like what's the worst type to work with, do you think?
The people that's in your very industry.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Mine's engineers. I hate working with engineers. They're always way too smart, and it doesn't matter if they could build.
They're meticulously calculating every move you make.
Well, they're like they could be engineers for yachts, and they'll walk into a house and they'll be like, yeah, that beam's not supposed to be there. And I'm like, do you design houses? You design truss systems? No, I design boats. And I'm like, then how do you even know? So you're telling me this beam is here for no reason at all. The city said, okay, you can live in this house. The builder designed it and their engineer said, yeah, this is fine. But you, Mr. Boat Builder, think that that's not supposed to be there. Those are the worst clients for me to work with because they think they know everything.
I think your mom and I had one recently where the seller was a real estate agent. And she was also a mortgage underwriter for Wells Fargo for 20 years.
Oh, I think I think I knew. I remember hearing like conversations in the office about it. I don't know who it was though.
And then she called me for a mortgage because she found a house she liked. And then about 20 seconds after she submitted the application, she emails me and tells me not to process the application. She's going to wait because of interest rates.
I just had somebody get a 9.5% interest rate on a no doc. The mob might have given them the money.
I was going to say that might as well have been hard money at that point.
Well, you know what's stupid is that
9% on a no doc loan right now on one of those, non-QM, what we like to call non-QM products, they're ranging up there. I think like 13% on one of them was something that I've seen the highest thus far.
13%.
13% on a specialty mortgage.
These people's lender they were using, I'm pretty sure these buyers were making up that they owned a business altogether. And so the original lender couldn't do it. Find that out like 2 days before closing. I was like, let me call a hard money guy. So I called my hard money guy and he was like, yeah, I got it 7.5%. My buyers were like, cause the first loan was like a bank statement. The second one was like a no doc. The third one that they ended up closing with was mob money. I don't know. But the second one was going to be 7.5%. And they're like, nope, we don't want to pay over 7. And I was like, I can have you close next week. Like all they're going to ask for is like, how much money do you make? And then they're going to 7%, whatever. So then we fall out of contract. The house goes back on the market. They find some lender out of probably Brooklyn, and Tony Soprano. And, they're like, let's resubmit on that house. I was like, okay, fine. Let's do it. Agents in my office worked with her before. So we got it done. And then a couple days before closing, they're like, yeah, 9.5%. And I was like, I could have had you at 7.5% and we would have been closed 2 weeks ago. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Got it closed and gosh, nightmare. But, yeah, 9.5%. Crazy. And then I've got people bitching and moaning about like, I don't know. I haven't had somebody get a mortgage in a while, but 5.5 probably. Like I haven't had somebody get a traditional mortgage.
Typically, I mean, it obviously, with any mortgage, it depends on their qualifying and where they're at with their financial profile. But I mean, yeah, we're probably seeing around the 5.5 range.
That maybe a little bit
higher, 5.5 to 6.
I'm sitting nice right now because I bought my house in 2019 at like 4.6, and I never refinanced, and now I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I got a low interest rate now. Just gotta ride the waves.
And then like I think like some people, of course, you've got the people who were there in the 80s and they're saying my interest rate was 18%.
My parents,
I'm like,
they were at 18% in like 1984 when they bought their first house.
Maybe I had that conversation with Brenda because I have a lot of people who are, and then you've got the social media going around where you say you marry the house, not the interest rate.
It's everywhere. If I see that saying one more time, I'm gonna lose.
I'm gonna post it just for you right after this.
I'm probably gonna put. I have to post it. Every other realtor's posting, and I gotta do the same thing. Got to keep up with everybody, which makes sense to me. But like, what if the rates just stay? What if they're just always 5.5? Then,
yeah, I mean, I see it from both sides, but I had a guy that bought during the 2010. He worked for the city of Fort Myers. He was in landscaping with the city. Cashed out some of his retirement, put down payments, ended up buying 4 duplexes, and then he was cutting grass for a lady, and she unfortunately passed away, and her daughter inherited the house, and her daughter was like, I'll sell it to you for $10,000. Granted,
in 2010, that was like the breaking point.
And the house was right off of Palm Beach. It sat right behind like Williams Hardware, like East Fort Myers.
I think I would buy any house. Actually, I'll say it right now. If anyone wants to sell me a house for $10,000, I don't care what the house looks like. I'll buy it.
You were trying to buy a Chevy not that long ago.
What was I trying?
Remember the red Chevy on the post on Facebook? You're like, I will. That is a heck of a deal.
Oh, yeah. I think that was. Yeah, I don't know.
It was like it had like 36,000 miles on it or something like that.
It was an old truck?
Yeah.
I want an old truck so bad.
If you're trying to buy a truck right now, yeah. You
this
talk about interest
like,
rates. Let's talk about premiums there.
This was like a 1950, like old like Ford or Chevy, like something.
It was
like
the old square body, not square body, but it was like the next up from the square body. Yeah. You had your solid square Chevy trucks, and then you had the rounded but still square body. And this truck was like, it was probably 1990s, 2000, early 2000. New? Oh yeah.
I commented on that. Why in the world would I?
I don't know.
It had to have been older than that.
People talking crap on it too.
It had to have been older than that.
No.
Maybe
It
I was
popped up on
trolling. Maybe I was trolling somebody.
You were probably trolling.
Because I have a real estate friend group in town that our group chat's called the Troll Brothers, and we go on people's posts and just troll everything, including each other's posts. So like you'll see my post like under contract, and you'll see like Nick Spano, Emily Konopasek.
Carcass or Nick.
Mike Carcass is who
Mike
you see.
Carcass.
That's because Nick's older brother's in real estate up in Orlando. So he'll post it, but he's not in our group. A few other, Kevin Bartlett's one of them, and we all comment stuff. We'll be like, "Wow, what an amazing price!" But it's just totally sarcastic.
Well, even in the same token, it boosts your algorithm.
That's the other half of the reason why we do it, but it's mostly just to be like, wow, that is truly incredible that you, especially like when all of us were selling houses for $50,000 above list price, and so be like, wow, nobody else could ever get $50,000 above list price in this market. And we'd all comment the same thing. But it was just to make fun of people, but it backfired. It's backfired a couple of times because like a few of us have had our clients as friends on Facebook. And so we'll comment all this stuff, and then they'll text and be like, "Hey, my client's my friend. Can you please take your comment off the thread?" But for engagement wise, like, yeah, like I just posted our boat for sale yesterday, and like they've all commented on it to boost the engagement and get people actually asking questions. So it works. And then sometimes it's just funny, but
funny.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of engagement, Facebook, and you know, you're teaching agents how to succeed in that arena. What is one tip without giving away the cake?
Consistency is like the easiest one, and also the most cliche one.
Yeah.
But if you're posting once a month, no one's ever seeing that. Mm-hmm. So I post all the time, and I've slowed down a little bit with my posting just as I've gotten busier and like more into the business, more years in. But if you're not posting stuff once a day, twice a day, even if you posted 3 times a week, you have a huge leg up on the person who posts once a month. And then even if your material's not great, because I understand a lot of people aren't, like, I'm a creative just at heart. And a lot of people don't have that. So their material is never going to look like mine is, which is fine, but be consistent. Even if your content looks like shit, still post it. It's not that serious. That's the other thing is like people think everything needs to be perfect. And Lake on our team now, he's doing like the TikTok clip videos with like the subtitles and stuff. He just started doing them. And I told him when he was getting ready to film them, I said, dude, just post it. No one's going to take you as serious as you're taking yourself right now. Just get it out there. All you want is the material to be out there. Because too many people get wrapped up. I'm too old for this. I watch it, but I can't figure it out.
Progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Any content's better than no content.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. They're like, man, I was just, I was trying to fine tune this post to like be perfect. I was trying to make sure everything was like perfectly centered to the, pixel. And I'm like, it's not as serious.
You can't do that. And out there are so many apps. Cody can attest to this.
There's 1,000 apps.
There are so many apps out there that help you fine tune it, that just get the content recorded and then fine tune it. And that's something that, because we had a series of 12, this is where Lake unsubscribed. So make sure he sees this because I'm sad. Like, unsubscribed.
I'm going to clip just this part and I'm going to send it to him.
There was definitely conversations behind the scenes where she was like, why did he unsubscribe?
I'm like, I didn't even send him anything.
Who does this Lake guy think he is?
I'm like, well, then fine. That's right. And then I see you join the Sheets team. I'm like, oh, it's on, man.
I unsubscribe to lenders every day.
It is on, buddy.
Well, I'm sure.
I unsubscribe to everybody.
Honestly, I would probably unsubscribe myself too. But content's got to get out there.
I don't think I'm even on your email list. Because I don't need to be. Don't add me. I believe it's great stuff, but like I just don't look at it because I know you are. I know your number. Like there's nothing that you're going to tell me that I don't know because we talk all the time.
Yeah.
But like my biggest pet peeve ever. I got a lot of pet peeves that I've talked about here, but the market minutes emails on Fridays. Stop sending market minutes emails, lenders. You all post the same thing. That's my spiel. It's the same thing every Friday. Like I literally, I could pull it up in my chat with my real estate friends. Every Friday at like 9:30, I'll text and be like, oh, guess what time it is, guys? Market minutes. And I've got like 50 of them. And I'm like, do you guys all use the same? I mean, realtors do it too, but like,
MBS Highway.
Gosh.
No, I don't think that comes from MBS
I
Highway.
don't know where they pull it from, but it's this.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's.
I mean, the MBS Highway, honestly, I think is a great tool. I think it's a great resource, but I don't think that comes from that.
No,
I think that comes from Surefire.
Well, yeah, it fires out of Surefire.
Yeah.
Where the content comes from, who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who it comes from at all. But
that's one of the things that we've tried to dive into is, we hired a copywriter. We're working to break free of a little bit more of the standardized content. And I hope that more of the industry kind of follows that to where you're not getting 50 of the same emails from.
I was searching. I delete them as they come in, but or unsubscribe from them. Like this, I haven't looked at them in probably a year. But when I would open them up, when it wasn't 50 lenders, it was like 2. It was the same thing. It was like the same email, and I'm like,
I was one of them.
And I don't even know if that's something that
My agent unsubscribed from me.
is that something that lenders send to just realtors, or is that something lenders send out to clients also?
On our basis, it goes out to just.
It depends. I think it depends. I mean, like so we have a specific CRM, and that CRM has, clients, lenders, referral partners, any kind of business partners. So it could, if you've done business with them, and it's in our system, in our LO system, it automatically trickles into the CRM and it starts firing off all the things. So
I get them from lenders I have never even heard of before. And I know like everyone buys.
You might have been the listing agent on that side because we still have to put that information into our system because on your CD, everybody gets put on there.
Your information's so many places.
I know. I mean, I've gotten like 10 texts today about healthcare. And I'm like, I haven't filled out one of those things in years. And like, but people buy lists, and it's how technology works anymore.
Self-employed, you're on that list of.
I know. But yeah, like those market minutes emails, man. Gosh, I'm like.
I'm going to send you one just for fun now.
Many.
You're just going to see. She's just going to start forwarding them. You can unsubscribe from the auto email.
Yesterday,
just start forwarding them to him.
I had a lender out of North Carolina
yesterday.
Lender sends me 6 emails before noon of like different. It was like, hey, here's today's rates. Hey, here's how to get your house in list condition. And I emailed her back. I was like, this is far too many emails. You're not in my state. And I'm definitely never using you because you just clogged up my inbox. Not that it's a big deal. It's just annoying. I hate unsubscribing from emails. But I'll do it. I'll do it.
Guess it's safe to say I'm never going to get to work with Lake.
He has your number though.
See, the thing about it is I'm going to stalk him. That's the fun part about it. I'll stalk him.
He'll, I don't even know who he uses. Oh yeah, I do. I'll say it off air. But he'll use you. It's just a matter of time.
Find him on TikTok.
He has like 80,000 followers on TikTok.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not creative in that space of TikTok. I'm so I was encouraged, voluntold to do these 12 videos. And the more that I did the videos, like I was doing 3 a week at a time and trying to. And then by the time that I had finished with my 12th video, I had a whole process on how I edit these videos. And it looks really, really good. You couldn't tell that it was in my shed.
The backdrop is the most important part of these.
It was my shed. It was my 8x10 shed that I did all of this content in. I had a little ring light that clips onto my phone.
The one you gave me?
Huh?
Remember you gave me that ring light.
What ring light?
It was like this big. It went to clipped to your desk.
Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah.
Wow, I got a piece of history.
I gave you a ring light?
Have you been looking for that?
Where did that go? I don't know why I gave that away.
I ended up buying like 5 of them because I thought they were cool, you know?
Lake just got a really cool one. It gives off the lighting almost like this, but it's a circle. Yeah. It's just like a one panel thing. It's really cool. But he's got like his office is like set up like this now.
Oh, he's a big TikToker then.
Huge. Yeah, well, going to be. I mean, he has 80,000 followers already pre-real estate, so it should work out for him. But he's 21.
So, yeah.
So he's like in that perfect demographic for TikTok.
I'm in that half and half demographic. I've got the older generation who are super keen and can do data, newsletter stuff, you know. But then I've got like the younger generation who's all the TikTokers and creative in the space of I'm gonna do this
But that's where it gets tough actually to distribute content the right way. I mean, when you're you're in a tough spot because your database is so segmented.
And exactly. And where my generational marker lies, because I'm that generational marker of, you've got the tradition and the old school way of doing things. And then you have the new millennial way of doing things in the technological world. I grew up with, Oregon Trail and pagers and satellite phones, bag phones. And now I'm in the smartphone techie world and I can hold my own, but I'm just not creative in that space.
The creativity isn't not my issue. It's the execution of this stuff because I'm impatient. So the easy option is to just pay somebody to do that stuff, but that ain't cheap. So I just don't do it. But
that was my next question. I was going to ask if you had gotten to a point where you're.
I still do everything myself. I refuse to spend money on. This is going to sound awful for a lot of people that are going to listen to this. I refuse to spend money on my business. And I also think it's part of the reason why if this does downturn, I'm still going to be here because I don't rely on anything except for myself to generate business for myself. Whereas like I've got friends spend a lot of money on Zillow and already they're starting to notice massive downturns in the quality and number of leads they're getting. And I don't have to fucking worry about it.
I don't blame you. I think it's the smartest move you can make.
And you don't have to whore yourself out either.
Yeah.
Because you already got that database and you've already got that foundation structured out and you don't have to rely on the Zillow or anything like that.
And
because
my friends that spend money on it, they're going to be here also. Yeah. They're, couple, probably all similar. We all been in the business similar times and they're all doing like 30, 40, 50, $80 million a year. They're going to be fine. But there's a lot of agents who don't do those numbers, might do $5 million a year that also spend $5,000 a month on Zillow. So one bad month, one bad quarter, and all of a sudden they are way in the red. And since I have no overhead really, I spend money on like folders, cards, shirts, that kind of stuff. I spent
money on folders.
But nice folders.
I have not seen them.
Oh, they're sick.
I have not seen them.
Yeah, we have like 5,000 of them.
Do you have one in your car that I can see?
No, I don't.
Oh, dang.
But they're white. They're white with like they're really nice folders. Yeah. So you're on there for a long time because we have 5,000 of them, and we do a folder every time we show a house.
Investment, I promise.
We use a folder every time we show houses. Every single time, it's a non-negotiable on our team, with all the listings in it and everything. So until we show 5,000. Well, I guess not 5,000 houses because you could have one folder for a day, but it's going to be a while before we run out of those. So you're going to be on that marketing material for a long time.
I'd like to renew in 2049, please.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. When I'm retired, I'm going to be like the last folder. I'm like, I wonder what Amanda's up to these days. I haven't been in real estate in a long time. I just found this in my pantry. Yeah, 2049. That sounds about right. But yeah, I just don't, the money you spend on like, editing video and like the smart marketing stuff, like the social media stuff gets really expensive really fast, which is why I started with $0 and maintained that through Facebook. I never spent money on ads or anything because it used to be relatively cheap to do Facebook ads and you used to be able to target people based on income. That was a huge thing. So in the beginning, I take this back. I spent a little bit of money on Facebook ads, a little bit, probably less than $1,000. I know this is I'm backtracking, but probably $1,000 trial and error stuff. But you used to be able to go, I only want to target people to make more than 250 grand a year. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden Facebook was like, whoa, that's targeting. You cannot do this anymore. And now it's like, you can search by area and a few other things.
Age demographic. I think you can do age demographic and area, right?
Not anymore. It has to do with housing ever since HUD sued Facebook over that. Once you click it's a real estate services, can't touch it.
Nope. The only way it's like area now.
Yeah.
Much.
The only way you can still target, believe it or not, is print marketing. Like if you want to do target marketing through Staples to send out postcards, you can build your list and they still do demographics like income and stuff. But you're going back to print mail that everybody's throwing away.
Well, you know what's crazy about that is that I thought the same thing. I thought print mail was totally dead. And now my friends doing 30, 40, 50, 100 a year, they're huge. They send out 20,000 postcards a month. And I'm like, I thought this was dead. They're like, apparently not, dude, because I made $3 million last year.
Yeah, I heard it was making a little bit of a comeback, but
And I don't know why.
People
no
love
sense.
mail. It's a
hate
pastime, and people love mail. They love getting mail. I will handwrite a note to somebody over having a copied thing because people love getting mail.
You're right, because this is a totally biased view, because when I get real estate stuff in the mail, I throw it away. But it's because I don't need to look at it.
Yeah.
But if I get something not real estate related addressed to me, I do open it.
Yeah.
So
Unless
the consumer, like Lake's doing postcard mailing right now. And it looks handwritten on the back. So I assume he'll get a little bit of feedback, and that could be why, because people do like getting mail. I like getting mail. I
like getting mail. If my name's on it in pretty handwriting, I'm like, oh, what's this? I get all giddy inside.
It's something tangible in a digital world right now. And people are like, well, maybe.
And some people are still trying to hold on to tangible 100%. Because digital is crazy.
My in-laws, we'll go to their house for dinner on a Sunday, and they'll send us a little hand. Thanks for coming to dinner. And it's nice. Aww. It's nice to get. Like
that's really cool.
Or they'll come over to our house.
I like.
And so how about this?
Borrow your in-laws for a second.
One of my grandpa's friends, I think it was one of my grandpa's employees way back in the day. This guy used to be able to, you could see him, it could be 20 years. And he'd see you and he'd go, like to me, he said, this is a direct story that my dad told me to my dad. So he saw my dad out somewhere when we still lived in Texas. He was like, Marty, how's Adam doing? My dad's like, dude, I haven't seen you in 2 decades, whatever it was. And this guy, every time he sees somebody, he writes down having their first child, Adam, in 2 months. So next time you see them, ask about Adam. And he has a Rolodex in his desk, or did. I'm sure this guy's dead now. He's got to be 1,000 years old. But he'll do that every single time. He'll write down something. So if he sees you, he goes, Amanda, how's the new truck? And you're like, how did he know? How did he remember about my new truck? But he would also, when he would see you in public, he'd shoot you a handwritten note. Hey, great seeing you yesterday. Hope you enjoyed that sub that you bought at Publix. And you're like, you didn't even see me buy a sub.
Just lurking in the shadows.
This guy's like super successful, like multi-millionaire on those little things like that. So, I mean, this was a long time ago, but even now people do like to have that thing to like hold in their hand and be like, you know what? I liked feeling this because everything now is right here, and which kind of sucks sometimes. And I imagine the days of buying a house when you had to sign everything on paper were probably more exciting.
Yeah, I hear stories about how they had to type up the note. I have a few loan officers who remember those days.
Well, how about the realtors who back in the day would show houses and they had like an MLS book that updated like once a week or something. And they had to go pick up the book from the board. Yep. And that's how they knew about new listings. And then like having to get a map out and map your day. I wouldn't even know what to do. I don't know how to read a map.
Remember Google Maps when you had to Google the address and then they gave you the directions and then you could like
MapQuest.
Okay, MapQuest. Thank you. Oh, it's not Google Maps. No, it's MapQuest. So that's not even that long ago because when I was in high school, my parents that was during the foreclosure crisis, and my parents had all these deals with banks, and the banks would pay like $600-700 for somebody to go clean out the house. And at like 15, I was like, yeah, Dad, I'll do all of these for $700 at a time. That's some really cool stuff in those houses too. Sometimes
the coolest stuff. I don't remember now, but I know like fishing poles, guns.
Yeah.
Like gold, not big gold bars, but I remember like little gold bars a couple times. And so they'd pay like $700, but I would do like 2 or 3 in a day. And my mom would print out like the MapQuest, and then she would like take me to the first house. She'd go back to work, pick me up, drop me off the second one, blah, blah, blah. And, I had MapQuest, and then like, even like, I remember like if my parents were out of town way before I was licensed, they're like, hey, can you open this, door for us, for these people, over the weekend? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I would have to go print out the MapQuest. That was like, this is maybe not even a decade ago.
Not even 10 years ago.
And now here we are. Like now our cars.
Hey Siri, how do I get home?
Yeah, exactly.
I got into the business at that point during the foreclosures. So, that was, everybody's bailing out of the business. They're being forced out of the business. And I was jumping in, and it was was a different world.
I can.
That's
Well,
when I
know.
got into the business too. Everybody had already jumped out. The crash was happening. People were losing their homes, and I jumped on with a real estate agent and started working in foreclosures.
Yeah.
And so I was the one
was
that
my
would
parents'
go and rekey
Yep.
and negotiate the cash for keys and do the broker price opinions, and then
I was
BPOs, man. I've
BPOs.
done so one time my dad asked me to do one just for the like experience of it. This was probably 5 years ago. I got 10 minutes into it and I was like, I'm never touching one of these again. And like, cause we still get emails like, hey, BPO for $75. I'm like, not a chance. They're so hard to do.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They were so
Filling them out.
not now.
If you had to do like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, if you had the government accounts, those were a nightmare. And then
We did Fannie Mae, but like 24 Asset was our asset manager.
Fannie Mae BPOs used to be like 12 pages, and you had to remember like what grade the property was. Is it a B or a C?
That's what this one I did. It was like a lot of pages, and it wasn't like a CMA I can do in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But a BPO, I was like, Dad, I'm doing this for $75. No,
I guess I don't
realistically,
remember.
I may have worked on it for a few hours that day, and then you break it down, and I'm like, at first you had to go to the house. You had to take like 10 pictures of the house.
Front, side, rear.
Yep. Street view from the garage into the garage.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. And I was like,
Every
this
room
is
from
not
the corner
worth
of the room. What has been your favorite selling experience?
the
Thanksgiving deal?
the Thanksgiving deal for sure.
Yeah.
That
What
was
is
just
your favorite part of working in real estate?
the freedom I have to just do whatever I want.
Nice. How do you create a client base? Social media?
Social media. And I'm still working on that part. Client base can always be bigger. But yeah, social media, that's how I built mine.
What are the most important resources buyers should be using and why?
A lender that's been doing it a while and understands the inner workings, a realtor that's been doing it a while, and
Full time.
yeah, definitely full-time agent. That's a huge difference maker. I mean, even in that deal we talked about earlier where like they couldn't get a house and then all of a sudden we got a house. Could that have been luck? Sure. Did we pick the right house? Probably. But the proof is in the pudding, and they didn't have a house prior to hiring a full-time agent, and then they had a house.
What qualities do you believe make up an effective real estate professional?
Got to be patient. You got to have some empathy for people and situations.
Compassion.
You got to be able to think outside the box. That's more on like your guys, I think, side of the business as opposed to mine. But when you're working with a lender and an agent that can think outside of the box to get stuff done, that makes a big difference. And patience first. I mean, I think patience is probably like the biggest one.
Patience and understanding.
Because it's hard. Like it's again, this we talked about it a little bit, but looking at every deal as it's a paycheck and not just getting somebody into a house, which is natural. This is a business. There's agents out there. I don't care about the money. Yes, you do, because your bills rely on money. And if you're not paying the bills, then you're not happy. Or different combination of that, but whatever. So having the patience to get somebody through to the end and not get frustrated, and somebody you got to be able to take a step back and not fire off like a text or a phone call when you're angry. I think was something that like was taught to me by my dad, because my dad's like don't fire off something mean or something you're gonna regret. Take a step back, think about it, and then respond. Because so many times, whether it's agents or clients, you'll get these like hateful, rude messages back about something. And it's like, dude, if you just would have taken a chill pill for a second, like the guy who filed the complaint against me with the board, if you would have just taken a chill pill for 1 second and been like, okay, maybe he's just dealing with an awful seller, then he would have understood the situation. But instead, he wanted to be so quick to just say, I'm so-and-so with this company. And I think his quote in that conversation when we were yelling at each other was, I'm one of the most successful realtors in the country. Well, dude, you sold 70 houses less than I did that year. So maybe you're not. Been in
the business for 20 years.
No, this was that guy like to the T. I've been doing this for 55 years. I'm like, Congratulations, dude.
Yeah.
Never have I heard of anything like that.
That's always a good one. I've never had that happen.
I've never had that happen.
Well, yeah, when you sell 5 houses a year, of course you didn't see that happen because you don't do enough business to deal with the situations that full-time people do. And then this guy's was full-time, but I mean, he sells really very expensive houses. Don't get me wrong, but again, practice like 5 houses a year. You're selling a house every 2 months, or 5 houses a week.
You got to take the little guys. You got to take the little ones.
You have to. There's not enough like 5, 10, $20 million houses for everybody. That's just facts because no one, less than 1%. It's like 1% of 1% can afford a $10 million house.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of business way below that for everybody. But yeah, that guy just take a step back and think about what you're about to say. And I do it with clients too, because there's a lot of times that I just want to be like, we're done, dude. We're done.
Tap, 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 tap.
Yeah.
Delete, 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 delete.
Exactly. But I will say occasionally when you do fire off one of those, it feels good. Sometimes you got to do it.
All right. We want to thank you guys so much for coming by today. We want to special thank you.
Close.
A special thank you to Adam Sheets for stopping by and giving us all of the wonderful insight. And don't forget to hit subscribe and like our YouTube channel. Have a great day.